The boutique was silent, save for the crackling of a single candle's flame. Zara stood alone before her grand mirror, gripping the edges of the marble countertop. Her face, once the epitome of beauty, was now barely recognizable. The edges of her mouth had darkened, her eyes sunken, and her skin looked as if something had drained it of life. A high-pitched scream tore through the air as the mirror cracked in front of her, splitting her reflection into jagged, twisted pieces. "No, no," she whispered, pressing her hands against her face, but the image only worsened. Her beauty was slipping, and something within her had awakened to claim what was owed. Before the horror, Zara's name was one of luxury and elegance, a brand revered by the wealthy and envied by all who dared to dream of beauty. Her boutique stood as a sanctuary of high fashion, filled with gowns that sparkled under crystal chandeliers and perfumes that lingered long after you left. Each piece she designed seemed to carry magic, transforming any woman who wore it. Yet no one knew the price Zara had paid for this success, nor the dark ritual she performed each night to maintain it. As customers clamored for her attention, Zara's mind always drifted to one thing: her beauty must never fade. Growing up in the village of Amika, Zara had learned about beauty from her grandmother, Mama Nene, a woman known for her healing and wisdom. "Beauty is powerful, my child," Mama Nene would say. "But remember, power can take more than it gives." Zara had listened, but as she grew older, her ambitions grew stronger than her reverence. She wanted beauty that no one could take from her, beauty that would make her unforgettable. Despite Mama Nene's warnings, Zara left Emeka for the city, clutching a handful of herbs and a collection of her grandmother's secrets, never knowing the lengths she would go to protect her allure. In the city, Zara rose quickly. Her beauty caught the eye of the fashion world, and her designs became the most coveted. Women flocked to her boutique, hoping to possess even a fraction of the elegance Zara exuded. Her life was perfect, but her mind was never at ease. Each time she looked in the mirror, she saw traces of age, hints of imperfection creeping upon her face. She felt as if her beauty was slipping through her fingers like sand. This fear grew into an obsession, and one night, alone in her studio, Zara made a decision she would later regret. Late one evening, Zara ventured into the hidden corners of an ancient bookstore. The dim lighting and dusty shelves held secrets she knew were meant to be forgotten. She pulled a leather-bound book from the highest shelf, its title barely legible, and opened it to a page on beauty rituals from ancient times. The words spoke of forbidden herbs, dark prayers, and the price that beauty demanded from those who pursued it. With each sentence, Zara felt as if her heart were being pulled deeper into something dark, something she couldn't escape from even if she tried. Zara waited until midnight, the air thick with silence. She laid out the ingredients from the book: a rare black herb, ground stones, a drop of her own blood, and followed the ritual to the letter. Shadows flickered across her face as she chanted the ancient words. A cold shiver ran down her spine, and for a moment, she felt a strange presence watching her. When she looked in the mirror afterward, her face seemed to glow with a light that was unnatural, beautiful, and frightening all at once. She felt powerful, invincible, but she didn't see the shadow that lingered just beyond her reflection. The effects of Zara's ritual were immediate. Her clients were mesmerized by her beauty, and her designs sold out within hours. But something strange began to happen to the women who visited her. One of her first clients, Mira, fell ill shortly after her visit. Her once bright eyes lost their light. Her skin grew pale, and her laughter faded to silence. Mira couldn't explain it, but she felt as if something essential had been taken from her. Zara, watching from the shadows, felt a thrill she couldn't deny, a feeling of power, as if she had taken Myra's beauty and added it to her own. As Zara's fame grew, whispers began to spread. Women who visited her boutique left feeling weak, drained. Some had strange nightmares, others lost their appetite, and a few even claimed they saw shadows moving in their rooms at night. Zara dismissed these rumors, attributing them to envy and jealousy. But a part of her knew the truth. She could feel her beauty intensify with each visit, as if every admiring glance, every compliment, was feeding the dark magic she had bound herself to. But her mirror held a different truth. There was something lurking in her reflection, growing stronger with each ritual. Amara was a young designer who admired Zara's talent. Her beauty was natural and effortless, her spirit kind and genuine. Zara saw herself in the girl, but instead of warmth, she felt envy. She invited Amara to be her apprentice, hoping to uncover the secret of her innocent charm. But each day spent with Amara only reminded Zara of what she had lost. Amara's beauty was untouched by magic, her youth untainted by darkness, and Zara's jealousy simmered, hidden beneath a polished smile. Amara soon noticed Zara's strange behavior. There was a room in the boutique, always locked, where Zara disappeared every evening. One night, Amara dared to follow her. She hid in the shadows, watching as Zara unlocked the door and slipped inside. Amara held her breath and crept closer. She caught a glimpse of Zara, standing amidst mirrors and candles, holding a small black jar and chanting softly. Amara's heart raced as she recognized some of the herbs from her village. But before she could understand what was happening, Zara turned, her eyes glinting with suspicion, and Amara fled. That night, Amara dreamed of a dark forest. She wandered through it, her steps heavy, her breath shallow. Shadows surrounded her, whispering her name, reaching out with twisted fingers. She turned and saw Zara's face, cold and hollow, her eyes filled with a hunger that made Amara shudder. She awoke in a cold sweat, clutching her blanket, the fear still clinging to her. Amara began to pray for guidance, sensing that whatever Zara was involved in was darker than she had imagined. The next morning, a foul smell filled the boutique. No one could pinpoint its source, and despite all efforts, the odor persisted. It clung to Zara, growing stronger each day, sharp and sour like something rotting. Clients began to comment, but Zara ignored them, her desperation to maintain her beauty outweighing her concern for their comfort. Amara watched her mentor with growing fear, sensing that Zara was slowly decaying, her beauty no longer enough to cover the darkness seeping out of her. One of Zara's most loyal clients, Lena, failed to show up for her weekly appointment. Rumors spread quickly. People claimed she had vanished, that she had last been seen leaving Zara's boutique looking ill and withdrawn. Zara dismissed these rumors, but her hands shook as she arranged the boutique's displays. Amara watched her closely, beginning to piece together the truth. She knew that Lena's disappearance was not a coincidence, that Zara's rituals were taking more than just admiration from her clients. With each passing day, Amara noticed an ominous presence growing around Zara. Shadows seemed to cling to her like a second skin, and a cold aura filled the space whenever she was near. Clients came and went quickly, their admiration now tinged with fear. Zara was still beautiful, but there was something empty in her gaze, a hollowness that seemed to grow deeper with each day. Amara could feel it too, a creeping dread that made her shiver whenever Zara was close. As the boutique emptied, Amara heard strange noises, a whisper here, a shuffle there. The air grew thick and heavy, filled with a darkness that was almost tangible. She felt as if unseen eyes were watching her, following her every movement. One evening, as she locked up, she caught a glimpse of something in the mirror, a dark figure, eyes hollow, staring back at her. She gasped and turned, but there was no one there. Amara left the boutique, her heart racing, her hands trembling, knowing that something dark was beginning to take hold of Zara. Unable to bear it any longer, Amara confronted Zara, demanding to know the truth. Zara's eyes blazed with anger, her voice a low hiss. "You wouldn't understand, Amara. Beauty is power. I've sacrificed too much to lose it now." She grabbed Amara's arm, her grip cold and unyielding, her face twisted into something unrecognizable. Amara pulled away, fear coursing through her veins, realizing that Zara had become something monstrous, consumed by her own obsession. One evening, as Zara prepared her nightly ritual, the main mirror shattered. Glass rained down around her, cutting her skin, drawing blood. She stared at her fractured reflection, seeing her face divided into a dozen twisted versions of herself. She could no longer deny the truth. Her beauty was rotting from within, and the power she had sought was now consuming her. Amara continued to dream of the dark forest, of shadows whispering her name, reaching for her. She began to pray more fervently, sensing that something was coming for Zara. In her dreams, she saw a figure in the distance, Zara but not Zara, a twisted, hollow version of her with eyes that glinted with madness. Amara woke each night with her heart pounding, knowing she had to escape the darkness that had taken root in the boutique. Lena, Zara's missing client, suddenly reappeared in the boutique one day, but she was a shadow of her former self, her eyes vacant, her skin sallow, and her movements mechanical. She drifted through the boutique, murmuring as if in a trance. Zara watched her, a mix of fear and fascination in her eyes. When Lena turned to leave, she caught a glimpse of herself in a mirror, and for a moment, her reflection showed Zara's face, twisted and cruel. Lena gasped, stumbling out of the boutique as Amara watched, her heart heavy with dread. Since Lena's visit, the boutique seemed darker, as if the shadows themselves had weight and presence. Mirrors reflected eerie, twisted versions of the people who passed by. Amara noticed her own reflection warping, her eyes hollow, her face pale, as though the mirror had stolen something from her. She confronted Zara once more, pleading with her to abandon her rituals, to stop whatever she was doing. But Zara only laughed, her voice hollow, saying, "Beauty must be kept, Amara, no matter the cost." One night, Amara was forced to stay late to finish an urgent order. As she worked, she felt a cold wind move through the boutique, though no windows were open. She heard faint whispers, distant and desperate, calling her name. Shadows moved at the edge of her vision, and each time she looked, the boutique seemed empty. But in the mirrors, she saw figures watching her. Figures with hollow eyes and twisted expressions, reaching out from beyond the glass. She fled the boutique, her heart pounding, her hands cold with fear. Amara tried to ignore the reflections, but they only grew stronger. Now, even during the day, she could see faint figures in the mirrors, women with tired, worn faces, their eyes pleading. She began covering the mirrors, but Zara noticed and uncovered them, saying, "You cannot hide from beauty, Amara, nor can you run from the price of it." Zara's voice sounded strange, her face appearing more gaunt and pale with each passing day. One evening, Zara offered Amara a chance to join her in her rituals, promising that it would reveal beauty beyond comprehension. "It's a gift, Amara, something people would kill for," she whispered, her eyes glinting with something dark. Amara felt a chill and refused, saying she wanted no part in Zara's madness. Zara's face twisted with rage, her voice cold and sharp. "You will regret this," she hissed, her beauty slipping further into something monstrous. More clients began to vanish after their visits to the boutique, leaving behind only empty, echoing spaces where their laughter once filled the air. Amara heard the whispers growing louder, more insistent, each voice telling her to leave before it was too late. Zara seemed unfazed, even amused, as though the disappearances were nothing more than a side effect of her beauty rituals. But Amara knew these voices were real, and they were warning her of the darkness that Zara had unleashed. Amara noticed that each time she looked in the mirror, her own reflection seemed to fade, as if something were draining her essence. One day, she saw Zara's face staring back at her from within the glass, eyes hollow and menacing. Soon, Amara, the reflection whispered. "You will belong to me." Amara backed away, feeling the weight of Zara's curse upon her, the darkness creeping into her soul. One evening, Amara caught Zara in the boutique alone. Zara's face was unrecognizable, her once flawless skin now pale and cracked, her eyes dark and sunken. She looked like a ghost, a decayed version of the woman she once was. "What have you done to yourself?" Amara asked, horrified. Zara only smiled, her lips twisting into a cruel grin. "Beauty takes its toll, Amara, and I will pay it, no matter the cost." Amara fled the boutique, but Zara followed, her face monstrous, her eyes burning with fury. "You've ruined everything," Zara shrieked, reaching for her with claw-like fingers. Amara fought back, grabbing a mirror shard from the floor. As Zara lunged, Amara held up the shard, reflecting Zara's own twisted image back at her. Zara screamed, her body convulsing, as if the mirror's reflection were burning her. Shadows poured from her mouth, her eyes, her hands, filling the room with darkness. The spirits Zara had stolen beauty from began to emerge from the mirrors surrounding her. Their faces were worn and broken, their eyes filled with a vengeful light. One by one, they reached out to Zara, touching her skin, her hair, her face. With each touch, Zara's beauty faded, her features decaying into ash. She screamed, trying to push them away, but they clung to her, reclaiming what had been taken. Amara watched, horrified yet transfixed, as Zara's once beautiful face turned to dust. When the spirits had taken all they needed, they vanished, leaving behind only silence. The boutique was empty, and Zara's form was nothing more than a pile of ash on the floor. The mirrors had all shattered, the once luxurious space now dark and hollow. Amara stood in the silence, her heart heavy, her mind filled with the horror she had witnessed. She left the boutique for the last time, knowing she would never return. Zara's boutique became a legend, a tale of beauty's dark cost and the vanity that had consumed her. People whispered of her downfall, warning others never to tread the path she had taken. And Amara, though scarred by the events, vowed to remember the spirits, honoring them with quiet prayers, knowing that beauty, like power, should never be taken lightly.